Hi, I'm Bobby, and welcome to Dusty Old Movies. I have always been just batty over Batman. I grew up loving the 1960s Batman TV show, but I also love the Dark Knight films. In fact, The Dark Knight Rises was the first midnight opening that I had ever been to. But, riddle me this, Bat fans, which one do I like better? I'll be judging them in 5 different categories. For The Dark Knight, I'll be including Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, and The Dark Knight Rises. And for Batman 66, I'll be including the entire 1966 Batman TV series and the 1966 Batman movie. Will the Dark Knight kapow Batman 66? Will the Batman 66 kersploosh the Dark Knight? You'll find out on The Dark Knight vs. Batman 66. And here we go! Holy fashion statement, Batman! First, we're going to have a look at how effective they are in their individual styles. Now, there are 2 sides to Batman. One is the dark, brooding figure set out to avenge the death of his parents. And the other is a man in a bat suit chasing someone who looks like a penguin. The Dark Knight focuses on the former, and the films are as realistic and as serious as possible. Along with the gritty visual design, they give logical explanations for the Bat gadgets, and avoid using computer effects as much as possible in favor of more realistic, practical ones. However, there are drawbacks. The director, Christopher Nolan, specifically said they really couldn't use the Penguin or Mr. Freeze because they'd be too silly. Why so chilly? Because they're emphasizing functionality instead of looks. I think the Batmobile looks kind of ugly. And because they're trying to be so serious and so profound, the Dark Knight films occasionally border on being pretentious. It's not who you are underneath, it's what you do that defines you. If you amped it up a couple notches, that could be a funny line on the TV show. The TV show focused on the silly side and actually made the lighthearted comic book of the period come to life. They had bright colors, wild props and sets, and even had the words pow and bam appear during the fight scenes. How creative is that? While it captured the comic, it also satirized it and offered plenty of comedy for the adults in the audience. Hi, this is Batman speaking. Batman. B-A-T-M-A-N. In an equal but opposite way, the show suffered from some of the same problems. They weren't able to use Two-Face because he was too scary. And occasionally the show would go a little too ridiculous. However, unlike being pretentious, being a little too ridiculous once in a while in a comedy is still entertaining. And the show was so creative in its visual design and its humor that the point goes to Batman 66. Holy drunken screenwriter, our next category is storytelling. The Dark Knight trilogy has an amazing story. It starts off by showing Bruce Wayne's journey to become Batman, and then shows his fight against crime, public perception, and himself. It's emotionally riveting, with a lot of action and plot twists. The TV show focused on telling light-hearted good versus evil stories, a few of which were actually based off real comic books. While some did have good plots, many of them just focused on the villains just trying to kill Batman, and the actual scheme became secondary. Now, given the campy nature of the show, this is not as big of a problem as it sounds, because I know if you haven't seen the show, this sounds huge. But still, many of the stories could have been stronger. So the point goes to The Dark Knight. Holy tie-dye, Batman! Things are even Steven. But our next category is who is the better Batman, aka Bruce Wayne. While Christian Bale does a good job at playing the emotions of the character, he is so distant that I have a hard time liking him, and I can't connect to his character. Also, it's been said before, but I'll say it again, his Batman voice is not so hot. Some days, you just can't get rid of a bomb. On the 60s front, Adam West rocks both Batman and Bruce Wayne. As Bruce Wayne, he's Mr. Suave, but as Batman, he's able to simultaneously be a true hero that your inner child can look up to, and be so funny that your adult self will be laughing his tights off. He also developed a clever but subtle distinction between his voice for Bruce Wayne, which was more laid back, and his voice for Batman, which was more intense. This is most apparent in the scene where the 2 characters had to talk to each other on the phone. Batman? Yes, Mr. Wayne, we will have a package of dummy money prepared for Mr. Freeze. A package of dummy money? That sounds risky. Risk is our business, Mr. Wayne. I think any excellent actor could have been as good or maybe even better than Christian Bale. But for the type of Batman he plays, I don't think anyone could have been as good as Adam West. So the point goes to Groovy Batman 66. Holy tax evasion! Our next category is the villains. Both Batmans have great villains played by great actors. In fact, that's one of the things the TV show was known for, having big stars play the villains. And, with the exception of Two-Face, both the Dark Knight villains and the 66 villains are all fully formed in their villain identity when we meet them, making them more intimidating and more larger than life. He comes at me with a knife and says, "Why so serious, son?" He puts the blade in my mouth. And why so serious? Heath Ledger's Joker is one of the most iconic movie villains of the 2000s. Heath is so dark as this psychopathic Joker, but will have the occasional light moment. Now, Cesar Romero is equally excellent and has tons of energy as the lighthearted prankster Joker. And while the focus is on the fun, in the early episodes, he occasionally reveals his dark side. No matter what they jeer and scoff, cut the circulation off. If they do not see the joke, pull the rope and let them choke. Both Jokers have the same motive. In The Dark Knight, Alfred suggests that the Joker's motive is just to watch the world burn. It's better than Bullwinkle. And in one of the episodes of the show, the Joker gimmicks smoke machines in a high school, so they give out silver dollars and negotiable stocks and bonds, so that the kids get used to easy living, drop out of school, and join criminal gangs. So both of them want crime and chaos. Also, they have a similar relationship with Batman. In The Dark Knight, the Joker says, "I think you and I are destined to do this forever." And very often on the show, when Batman finds out the Joker's on the loose, Robin exclaims, "Him again." So even though they have different interpretations, both of them capture the spirit of the Joker. However, I do have one question. Why doesn't Heath Ledger have a mustache? Next is that felonious feline Catwoman. Both Anne Hathaway and Julie Newmar capture the charisma, sexuality, and wisecracking element of that character. Anne focused on the drama, and Julie focused on the sultry and comedy aspects, but both were perfect in their roles. Those are the only two villains that both Batmans have in common. However, the rest on both sides are excellently acted, with the Dark Knight ones being a real-world threat, and the TV show ones combining comedy and menace. Overall, the show made those villains pop culture icons. The Riddler was a nothing villain until Frank Ocean made him famous. Catwoman hadn't appeared in a comic book in over 10 years until Julie Newmar played her. And you can even hear some of Cesar Romero's laugh in Heath Ledger's laugh. However, the Dark Knight films redefined these villains and brought a psychological depth to them. So, both Batmans get a point. Holy John Stewart, our final category is social commentary. Many of the events and situations in The Dark Knight are reflections of our own society. Terrorism, Occupy Wall Street, corruption in the police and government. And they give these films a greater level of depth and reality. Now on the show, the social commentary comes in the form of social satire. The episode where the Penguin runs for mayor, which pokes fun at political campaigns, and the oblivious United World Council in the movie are hilarious and still biting parodies. While always well done, the social commentary in the show tends to be sporadic, and it isn't a regular part of it like it is with The Dark Knight. So the point goes to The Dark Knight. And now let's tally up the winner. Will it be gritty or will it be groovy? Carry the 3. And the winner is, in this baddie battle, a tie. Holy anticlimax. Both versions of Batman were incredibly innovative in their approach, encountered a few problems, but ultimately captured the spirit of Batman and at the time that they were produced, and are both a great watch. Thank you for watching Dusty Old Movies, and have a baddie day, old chums.